17, I came home to an empty house and a note on the kitchen counter. It simply said, "You'll figure it out." My parents had moved 2 states away without telling me, leaving me completely in the dark. Over the next 12 years, as I built my life without them, they reached out, trying to reconnect. The note was the cruelest thing I had ever read. I had no idea what I had done wrong. I assumed they were tired of pretending they loved me. But the truth was, they never even tried. When I was 13, I baked a birthday cake for my mom. She called it clumpy. At 15, I tutored my brother through finals, but all I got in return was him calling me a know-it-all and slamming his door in my face. At 16, I gave my entire paycheck to my dad for bills, only to be told I was useless. I was always the one who helped, but I was never loved. Then my family left. My parents and my brother packed up and moved without saying a word. A week later, I found out from the landlord. They had canceled the lease early, giving me only a week to move out. I spent 3 nights at a friend's place before I ran out of options. Eventually, I ended up sleeping in a storage unit I rented with the last of my savings. I showered at the YMCA and ate peanut butter straight from the jar for every meal. I applied for jobs at the library, pretending like everything was fine. I eventually landed a job as a server at a diner. The manager was tough but fair. She paid me under the table until I got an ID and let me nap in the break room when I was too tired to stand. I pushed through, bought a prepaid phone, saved every receipt, and watched YouTube tutorials on finance and goal setting. My first year was about survival, but I made it. But turning point came when a regular at the diner offered me a temp job organizing office files. It paid 3 times what I was making at the diner, so I took it. That job led to more work. By 22, I was freelancing full-time. By 25, I launched a consulting business. Just me, a borrowed laptop, and the folding table. By 27, I had 5 contractors working for me, and a client list that included companies I once dreamed of. By 29, I was officially a millionaire. Not an influencer millionaire, but one with real savings, a paid-off apartment, a retirement account, and affordable health insurance. Throughout those years, my family never reached out, not once. I saw my brother pop up on my suggested friends list once. He's married now, still living in the state they moved to. I couldn't help but wonder if he ever mentioned me, if he told his wife I ran away, or if he said nothing at all. Sometimes, I still wonder if it would have been easier to hate them. I started therapy because I wanted to stay unbroken. I've made a list of people who saved me when they didn't have to. Coworkers, classmates, strangers who showed me what real support looks like. Last week, a podcast interview I did about surviving family estrangement went viral. It hit 1 million views in 4 days. My inbox filled with messages of support from strangers, thanking me for putting their feelings into words. Then, an email stood out. The subject line read, "You're still our daughter." It was from my mom. No apology, just a brief paragraph saying maybe we could talk. Then I got another email, this time from my brother. "We miss you. Can we fix this?" I sat with those emails for a while, unsure of how to respond. My therapist, Melissa, suggested I take at least a week before making any decisions. "Give yourself space to feel whatever comes up," she said. "There's no rush to respond." So I spent the next week focusing on work, going to the gym, and meeting friends for dinner. But the emails haunted me. I kept opening and closing them. My mom's email felt cold and impersonal. My brother's was shorter, but seemed more genuine. After 10 days, I decided to reply to him first. Just a simple, "It's been 12 years. What changed?" I hit send before I could overthink it. His response came quickly. He said the podcast made him realize what they'd done. He was 15 when they left, and admitted he didn't have the courage to reach out before. He said seeing me succeed made him proud. I didn't buy it. If he cared so much, why wait until I was successful? I asked him that directly. His next email was longer. He explained that money had been tight for them. Their business had failed, and his wife was pregnant. The real reason was clear. Me as a baby, of us at the beach, and of me building a snowman with Michael. At the end of the email, she wrote, "We made mistakes. We want to make amends." I showed the emails to Melissa during our next session. She reminded me that I was in control, that I could set boundaries, and that I didn't owe them anything. Closure might help you move forward, whether that's reconciliation or a final goodbye, she said. I felt conflicted. Part of me wanted to tell them to leave me alone, but another part wanted to understand why they left. A small part of me still wanted them to love me. I decided to meet my brother first, just him, no parents. We arranged to meet halfway in Chicago. I flew in the morning of, checked into a hotel, and almost canceled 3 times. But at 2 p.m., I walked into the coffee shop and saw him immediately. He looked older and heavier, but his eyes were still the same. We didn't hug. We just sat across from each other with our coffees. The first 20 minutes were uncomfortable. We talked about the weather, my flight, his drive. Then he apologized. "I was just a kid when it happened," Michael said, his voice cracking. I was too scared to stand up to them. I didn't know whether to believe him, but I listened. I asked him the question I had asked myself for years. Why me? Why was I the one left behind? His answer was shocking. They always saw you as the strong one, the independent one. They thought you didn't need them as much as I did. They thought you'd be better off without them. I told him about the storage unit, the peanut butter, the YMCA showers, and working the night shift at 17. He looked devastated. "I didn't know," he whispered. "They told me you had a plan, that you chose to stay behind. I was left unsure. He seemed sincere, but he was still framing himself as the victim, not acknowledging. Later, I got an email from my mom. She admitted their financial struggles and said they thought I'd be better off without them. I hung up on her immediately. The next day, my dad sent an email asking for help with their bills. Without any acknowledgement of what they had done, I forwarded it to Melissa. "It's empty guilt," she said. "They want something from you." By Monday, I made my decision. I emailed my brother, telling him I was open to a relationship, but with boundaries. No money, no loans, no support for our parents until they took responsibility for their actions. His response came quickly. "You're being selfish with your success." I didn't respond. Instead, I booked a flight to Bali. I needed space to think. While I was there, Michael called to apologize for his email. He said he understood my position and respected my boundaries, but I remained cautious. When I returned, I found more desperate emails from my dad, but I didn't read them. I also found a message from Michael asking if I would meet our parents, but I wasn't ready. Melissa helped me realize that I was still craving their approval, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to be enough for them. I struggled with that feeling, but I began to set firm boundaries. After months of manipulation, guilt, and emotional exhaustion, I finally took control of my life. My decision was clear: no reconciliation until they fully accepted responsibility for what they had done to me. My building had security, cameras, a doorman who already knew not to let our parents in. They accepted the protection without hesitation. That night, the four of us shared takeout in my living room. Lily played with toys Jenny had brought. We spoke quietly about next steps: restraining orders, police reports, new phone numbers and emails, maybe even moving to a different home. Anything to stay safe long term. It wasn't the family gathering I'd ever pictured. Sitting there, with the brother who'd once abandoned me, his wife who had believed lies about me, and their child, innocent in all of it. But somehow it felt right, like we were finally facing the truth, together. Like we might actually rebuild something from the ruins of what our parents had destroyed. The next morning, Marcus called. He said he'd filed emergency restraining orders for all of us, and we'd need to appear in court next week to make them permanent. He reported the break-in to a detective he trusted, someone taking it more seriously than the initial officers had. He advised we all stay together until things were resolved. I agreed. I called my assistant, told her I'd be working from home indefinitely for family reasons. She understood and adjusted my schedule. I set up a workspace in my guest room for Michael so he could work remotely. Jenny and Lily took over the living room, building forts and watching cartoons. It was unusual having people in my space. I'd lived alone for years, accustomed to silence, clean counters, and an empty sink. But there was comfort in the noise. Lily's laughter, Jenny's quiet humming while folding laundry, Michael's typing in the other room. It felt like family. Not the family who abandoned me, but maybe the family we could become. That afternoon, my doorman called about a flower delivery. I told him to read the card before sending them up. The message: "We know where you are. This isn't over." I didn't tell Michael or Jenny. They had enough to worry about. Instead, I stocked up on groceries, made dinner, played with Lily, trying to create a sense of normal in a very abnormal situation. That night, when everyone was asleep, I sat in my kitchen and finally let the emotions surface. Fear, anger, grief, and a strange flicker of hope. I cried silently into a dish towel so no one would hear. The next morning, Jenny found me making coffee and asked if I was okay. I said yes. She didn't believe me. She sat down and said gently, "It's okay not to be okay, Emma. I'm not either. Michael cries in the shower. Lily keeps asking when we can go home. This is awful, but I'm grateful we're in it together." I looked at her, this woman I barely knew, who was suddenly part of my life. I asked why she came to me that first day, why she believed me instead of siding with the family she'd known for years. She smiled sadly. "I always felt something was wrong with your parents. The way they controlled Michael, the stories they told. The podcast confirmed it. I couldn't let my daughters grow up thinking abandoning a child was acceptable." We hugged for the first time. It was awkward but genuine. Not friendship yet, but understanding. A shared determination to stop the cycle of harm. The next few days settled into a strange routine. Working, cooking, playing with Lily, checking in with Marcus, jumping at noises, flinching at phone calls. We were safe, but not at peace. Together, but still healing. On Friday, Marcus called with news. The detective had found security footage showing our parents' car parked near Michael's house during the break-in. Our restraining order hearing was set for Monday, and he was confident it would be granted. We felt relief, but the anxiety remained. That night, someone smashed Michael's car window with a brick. No note needed. The message was clear. The cameras caught only a man in a baseball cap, face turned away. We couldn't prove it was our father, but we all knew. Another report was filed. Sunday night, we sat together planning for court. What to wear, how to explain our family history, how to show the escalation clearly. It felt surreal, like we were discussing dangerous strangers, not our parents. As we prepared, I got an email from my mom. Subject line: "Last chance." The body: "If you go to court tomorrow, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." I showed it to Marcus, who was staying for dinner. He told me not to reply, that it would help our case. That night, none of us slept well. Monday morning came with a strange calm. We dressed carefully, business casual, respectable. Jenny arranged childcare for Lily. We drove to the courthouse in separate cars, just in case. Marcus met us at the steps, confident as ever. As we entered, I saw them, my parents, smaller and older than I remembered. My mom made a move toward me, but my dad held her back. They didn't speak, just stared as we walked past. In court, Marcus presented everything: the break-in, threats, flowers, brick, email, and the long history of abandonment. The judge listened carefully, his expression hardening. When my parents spoke, just trying to shut them out, he said they loved us, that this was all a misunderstanding. He denied the footage, minimized the threats, claimed they were the victims. My mom nodded and dabbed at her eyes. Then the judge asked directly about abandoning me at 17. My dad stumbled, tried to frame it as financial hardship. The judge's face tightened. In the end, the restraining orders were granted. 3 years, no contact, no approaching us, no messages. Any violation meant arrest. My parents looked stunned, like they had never faced consequences before. Leaving the courtroom, my mom softly called my name. I kept walking. With each step, the weight lifted slightly. Not healing, not yet, but the beginning of it. Outside, Marcus shook our hands, said the orders were strong, and he was proud of us. We thanked him, dazed but relieved. Michael hugged me, voice breaking as he apologized for everything. For not protecting me, for believing lies, for dragging this chaos back into my life. I hugged him back, told him we'd be okay, that we could build something better. As we walked to our cars, my phone buzzed. A photo of Lily at her friend's house, clearly taken without permission. 4 words below, "This isn't over yet." I showed Michael immediately. His face went pale. He called Jenny, who rushed to pick up Lily. We agreed to meet at my apartment. My hands shook as I called Marcus. He told me to forward the text, drive straight home, and stay vigilant. That night, none of us slept. At 2 a.m., my dad's car circled my block 3 times before parking across the street. I took photos. Technically, not a violation, but we all knew what it meant. The legal system had limits. Restraining orders were only paper. The next day, Jenny and Michael took Lily to a hotel. I stayed behind, strangely calm. I called Melissa and told her everything. She asked me one question: "What do you actually want from your parents?" That night, I made a list. To live without fear. To have a relationship with my brother's family. To stop feeling responsible for my parents' actions. To be free of the past. Reconciliation wasn't on it. Neither was forgiveness. I just wanted freedom. The next day, I emailed my parents. One final meeting. A coffee shop. Noon. Just me. After that, they leave us alone forever. My dad replied within minutes, "We'll be there." When they arrived, I told them directly, "It's over. You've lost us. If you continue, I will expose you to everyone you know." My mom cried, asking for another chance. My dad grew angry, accusing me of being ungrateful. I laughed, actually laughed, and told him he had no right to gratitude for abandoning me. They had nothing left to say. I stood to leave, My last words. This is your final warning. If you violate the order again, I will make sure the world knows exactly who you are. Walking out, I felt lighter. I called Michael and told him everything. He was upset I went alone, but relieved it was finally confronted. Weeks passed. Silence. No calls, no texts, no sightings. Slowly, life resumed. Michael and his family moved closer, and we built new routines. Sunday dinners, new traditions, a family by choice. Months later, Marcus forwarded me a letter from my mom. No excuses this time, just an acknowledgement of harm, an admission they failed, and a promise to respect boundaries. I kept it, not because I was ready to forgive, but because it marked something important: recognition of my right to set limits. At Lily's 4th birthday, I watched my apartment fill with laughter, balloons, and love. I thought back to that note left for me at 17. You'll figure it out. And I had. Not the way they intended, but in the way I deserved.